Hey everybody, what's going on? Today I want to do a video on private property. As people that hike, camp, photographers, anybody that's out exploring nature, we all have a responsibility to nature, in my opinion, and that means making sure that we're packing out what we packed in, the whole leaving no trace mentality, and that includes not creating new paths and trails that don't exist if they're not necessary, not tying off flagging tape all over the forest, and just trying to minimize our impact as much as possible. And this isn't just for nature, this is also being respectful towards property owners, and that includes not blocking right-of-ways, private driveways, driving cars and off-road vehicles where maybe they don't belong. That said, many Nova Scotians don't seem to understand how private property works. In Nova Scotia, we have the Protection of Private Property Act. Under this act, you must have legal justification, and that can be either written or oral, to enter the following types of premises: lawns, gardens, orchards, vineyards, golf courses, agricultural land, tree plantations, Christmas tree plantations. Here's a quick scenario for you. So you thought innocently you would take a quick shortcut to get that Instagram banger, and then all of a sudden you're being threatened with arrest, with charges. It's not exactly that simple, and here's what the law states. Trespassing under this act actually doesn't fall under Canada's criminal code. It's considered a summary offense. That's more similar to a traffic violation and doesn't actually include severe punishment or jail time. So worst case under the law, you can be fined up to $500. Keep in mind that doesn't include if you happen to do something stupid that causes damages. You're still liable in civil court and you can be sued, and a judge could order you to pay restitution. So you're not going to be thrown in jail, and you're not going to be arrested if you accidentally trespassed on somebody's property which you didn't see a no trespassing or private property sign, and you innocently were just taking a shortcut or wanted to hike to a certain spot. That's just not going to happen. Worst case scenario for you is if for some reason you were asked directly not to trespass and you kept doing it for whatever reason because it was a shortcut on your daily walk, or you thought it was silly or whatever reason, and you kept trespassing, a cop at that point could actually hold you. The only other reason, according to this law, that a cop would hold you if you were disobeying this act, if you were trespassing, would be if they need to ID you. Other than that, you're not going to be arrested. It's not a criminal offense. So that brings me to my next point, or to the law's next point, and that is that private property does have to be marked. It has to be marked in the most obvious locations and directions that most people would approach from. It can't be hidden behind a bunch of branches, or the sign can't be half torn apart. It has to be visible within reasonable conditions. But there has been a couple times in the past that I have hiked down the river to a waterfall, and it's been on private property, and the property owners weren't fond of that, we'll say. I've had anything from straight up threats to kind of more passive aggressive, thinly veiled threats, to just straightforward, decent, and understandable requests for me to not go on their property and to remove any instructions and directions that were enabling other people to go. And I completely understand, and I have no problem obliging such requests. Yeah, we should be respectful to private property, but I mean, you can't head out to hike and be in the middle of nowhere and then just start going door to door over the whole county hoping you figure out who owns the random acreage in the middle of nowhere. It's not reasonable, and it's foolish, to be honest with you. If you're being respectful and you're not, cutting down trees, and you're not leaving your campsite with garbage and unattended fires, there's no reason that you should feel threatened by somebody to be arrested because you went hiking it. Now that I've defined what this law considers private property and areas that you can be fined the $500 summary fine for breaking the law, this law actually has a section at the end that covers recreational activity. In this section, they define forest land, So this is an important distinction compared to the examples mentioned just before this. The law defines forest land as a wooded area, a forest stand, tract covered by underbush, barren ground, marsh, or bog. This definition does not include a Christmas tree plantation, a special forestry study area, the immediate area in which a forested product is being harvested, and commercial berry growing areas. All those areas are exempt from the recreational section of the law. And what the law states is that no person may be prosecuted for contravening any notice pursuant to this act prohibiting entry or prohibiting activity on forest land, if that person happens to be hunting as defined by the Wildlife Act, fishing, picnicking, camping, hiking, skiing, or engaged in other recreational activity, or engaged of study of flora or fauna. So basically, if the area you want to go hike in is an unused forest, you have every right to go hiking there. If you're a property owner and you don't want people to go in the forest that you own, you need to put up a fence or you need to use the land. If you're not using it, then in general, you probably shouldn't even really care. It's just the forest that you happen to own. And I do understand all the things I mentioned before about dogs off leashes and everything I mentioned within respect of property and respect for nature and my personal philosophy. I've already covered that. But as far as the rights of hikers go in the middle of the woods, it's the woods. Until you use it, it's just that. So basically what it's saying is you're not going to be prosecuted by the law for hiking on a private wooded area, regardless if there's even a sign. I'm not saying you should, and you should always respect the wishes of the property owners, but you're not going to be prosecuted by the law for it. Another thing to consider is people that are under 12 years old are not subject to being prosecuted for violating this Protection of Private Property Act. So that's it. Hopefully this video helps you clear up some of the misconceptions about private property in Nova Scotia. This is just a quick summary. I do encourage you to read the full act yourself. I'll post a link for that down in the description in YouTube if you want to read it. That's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you for following me to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.